This is a Sports Catastrophe production. Hey there, hello there. It's Jeff Cutter Diamond. Welcome you to another Sports Catastrophe on this day. And on this day, April the 14th, Minnesota and Chicago ended their 1991 playoff series with a handshake line. The Blackhawks, who were the best team in the NHL, winning the President's Trophy, and winning they had the All-Star game, and basically the heavy Stanley Cup favorites took on the Minnesota North Stars, who were lucky to even be in the 91 playoffs because of how the playoff format is. And you're thinking, well, Chicago easily took care of Minnesota. Not so fast. It seems that you may be hasty with your stuff. But yes, the Minnesota Vikings, the Minnesota North Stars took out the Chicago Blackhawks in 6 games. You're thinking, what? This is impossible. How the hell did the 91 Minnesota North Stars take down the Chicago Blackhawks? Well, they did. So anyway, this was the North Stars' 24th season. They were below 500 at 27, 39, 14, which 12 games below 500. How do you make the playoffs? Their home record was great, 19, 15, and 6, but their road record, they only won 8 games on the road. Wow. But the funny thing is, Bob B. Clark was the GM of the team, and Bob Gainey was the coach of the team. It's like, what? You got 2 legends being part of the Minnesota thing. Dave Gagne was the goals leader. Neil Braun was the assist leader. And all that. So, yeah. The North Stars picked up Darian Hatcher in the draft and all that. So the regular season happened. The Blackhawks led the NHL with 106 points. They only won by 1 point over St. Louis. Chicago had 49 wins, 23 losses, 8 ties. St. Louis, their big rival, 47, 22, and 11. Detroit ended up third in the North with 76 points. The Minnesota North Stars ended up fourth with 68. But this was the time between 1982 and 94, as I alluded, 93 I meant, which I alluded to in the Miracle in Manchester episode on April 10th, that basically 4 teams from each division would make the playoffs. And guess what? It happened. Because there was a 5th team in the North, that being the Toronto Maple Leafs, or the Maple Leafs as some people say, and the Leafs actually only had 57 points to Minnesota 68. Minnesota was primed to make the playoffs. It was nothing new for the North Division, as many times in the 1980s, teams that were really sucking would make the playoffs. One such example is the 1988 season when the Leafs beat the North Stars to a playoff spot to get into the 1988 playoffs. But for the Leafs, winning a playoff spot was the worst possible thing because it ended up being that the North Stars were the worst team in the league, and the number 1 draft pick would have been the Leafs. I wonder if they would have taken Mike Modano. But yeah, pathetic. But anyway, yeah, so the North Stars of 1991 sucked and all that. Fans didn't really come out to their games, but then there was a lot of people who wanted to come to them. So now they took on the Chicago Blackhawks. In 1990, they had an epic 7-game series which Chicago had to win on home turf. In Game 1, Minnesota shocked Chicago on a Bobby Smith overtime goal to make it 4-3. Chicago would strike in Games 2 and 3 to take a 2-1 series lead, but strange enough, the North Stars managed to win 3 straight. 3-1, 6-love, 3-1. Amazingly, the Blackhawks, the powerful Blackhawks, who put up 11 goals in Games 2 and 3 combined, only put up 2 in the final 3 games. It was like, what the hell, man? John Casey stood on his head. Dave Gagne, Bobby Smith, Shane Shula, Neil Braun, they had a lot of pluggers. Bassett McCray, they shocked the world. The North Stars would then take on the St. Louis Blues in the division finals. St. Louis, well, they had 105 points, actually had to come back from a 3-1 deficit to sink the Red Wings in the first round. So we almost had a Red Wings North Stars first round series, which the teams just sucked, and one of them was going to be in the conference finals. Then the North Stars won in St. Louis 2-1 in Game 1. Game 2 would see St. Louis win 5-2, but Minnesota would win their 2 home games to go up 3-1. St. Louis would try again to do the impossible, come back from a 3-1 series deficit again. They did it in Game 5, but in Game 6 they lost in Minnesota. So the North Stars would face the Edmonton Oilers in the conference finals. A lot of people said that whoever won this matchup between the North Stars and Oilers would be basically easily have their goose cooked by the other conference winner, which was Pittsburgh or Boston. The North Stars won Game 1 and lost and got blown out in Game 2, 7-2, which is fine. It's like, okay, well, Edmonton now knows what to do. They are the defending Stanley Cup champs. But somehow, in some way, the North Stars managed to put the back burner. Edmonton scored 6 goals in the final 3 games of the series, and Minnesota scored 15. You can probably guess where this leads to. And yes, the Minnesota North Stars made a Cinderella run all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals, and they were 12 games below 500. They were expected to get their butts handed to them by the Pittsburgh Penguins, and Mario Lemieux easily would have his title. However, the North Stars didn't make things easy for Pittsburgh. They actually had a 2-1 series lead in the 91 finals. Everyone forgets that the North Stars had the lead. But Pittsburgh put up 19 goals in the final 3 games of the series. All wins to knock the North Stars flat, including one of the most embarrassing series-ending scorelines of all time. 8-0. Pittsburgh won 8-0 to win the Stanley Cup and all that. But give Minnesota credit. I mean, that team had Dave Gagne, Brian Bellows, Brian Propp, Neil Broden, Mike Modano, Bobby Smith, Al Dolan, Mark Tenorti, Doug Smale, Perry Barrison, Larry Murphy. Oh, no, sorry, not Larry Murphy. He didn't play for them. Kurt Giles, Mike Craig, Stu Gavin, Mark Burrow, Shane Shula, Sean Chambers, Bassett McCrae, and a host of other people who were basically pluggers and all that. The goaltending, Casey and Hayward were basically 1-2 and all that, with melees and tackle playing. But here's the weird thing about the 91 North Stars. They were involved in some argy-bargy. Here's the thing. The 91 North Star, now, prior to the season, the 2 owners for the Minnesota North Stars, George and Gordon Gunn, you remember them? Yes, they had a basketball arena named after them in Cleveland. Wanted to fund a team on the west coast of California, the San Jose, and get them into the NHL for the 91-92 season. So they took the partnership. However, the NHL was not too happy. The Guns had to pay the had to pay the Minnesota North Stars, the other owners, basically money, and then have someone else take their shares, which was Norman Green. Sadly, though, Norm Green would be basically known as a felon in Minnesota because he used that opportunity to get the North Stars out of Minnesota and into Dallas. So anyway, the North Stars and the Sharks, they would be in a dispersal draft. So the Sharks could take some players from the North Stars organization, the major leagues and the minor leagues. But then the North Stars were allowed to pick up people in an expansion draft, one player from each of the 21 franchises and all that. And yes, the Minnesota North Stars picked Guy Lafleur. And it was like, Guy Lafleur, was he still playing 91? Yes, he was. He played for Quebec in the 91 season. However, the problem is that Minnesota had to pick someone from the Northeast because one player from each team must be picked, each franchise. So they had to take Guy Lafleur. However, they traded him back to Quebec for Alan Hallworth, and basically Lafleur retired as a Nordique before playing 1 game with the North Stars. It's kind of weird, don't you think? That the North Stars, they get to the Stanley Cup Finals, and then they have to lose players to San Jose in a dispersal draft and pick up people in an expansion draft. Well, the North Stars would basically fall flat. 92 season, they actually had a 3-1 series lead on the Red Wings and could have went to the division finals against the Blackhawks. But unfortunately, Detroit came back and beat them soundly. This would be the last time the North Stars made the playoffs. 93, they missed the playoffs, and Hockey Minnesota would not come back for another 7 years. So, man, you punish a team that goes all the way to the finals on a Cinderella run. Not happy about that. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do.